Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Space Viking Chronicles. And joined with me, are a whole slew of great people. Some faces that you may have recognized throughout the few weeks that we have been playing. But we are playing SVK4KIDS, aka the Space Viking Chronicles for Kids, where we are trying to raise money for the kids at St Jude. Which you can look over to the right here, where how you can get involved, which I'll talk a little bit about in a little bit here. But first, we're going to introduce everybody and go around the table so you can learn about the peeps, specifically who they are, not necessarily their characters. But everyone can talk about their characters a little bit, except for Cathanis. Don't tell anybody yet. We're going to introduce your character in a bit here. I like to do like grandiose and intros. I like learning a little bit about your character, the ins and outs of it. And I think it makes it really exciting for me and for the viewers, and kind of, especially since we play in a persistent world. For those of you who haven't tuned in the past, we have a world that continually lives on, and we bring in new people. I don't even know how many characters we have at this point. Like, I feel like we have at least 20 characters. So we just bring in new characters all the time. If you're a sub and you're interested in it, be sure to just find someone with a blue name on Discord, let them ask them about it. It's part of our community team, and they'll ask you some questions, and if you fit the criteria, we'll bring you into the D&D channel. You don't ever have had to ever play D&D before. It's more of, because we're putting on a show, you got to have a camera and mic and all that jazz. But we'll go around the table first. We'll start, I always go the same way, so it's pretty easy to remember. Baz, aka standalone playing Baz. Who are you? And you can talk a little bit about your character.
Hi, I play Boz. Getting a little bit
You might be hearing echo on my end.
yeah. Anyway, I play Boz, a half-orc warrior, wearing an iron mask. Mysterious. Well, right now we're trying to fix poor Uthal. So gonna have some adventures with that.
Something like that. And next to him is, of course, our wonderful Tech Priest Khan, aka the Roxy. Who you be, what you play, all that stuff.
Hello, I'm Tech Priest Can, I guess, one of the many lurkers. But I'm playing Roxy, a tiefling cleric who's probably having an anxiety attack right now because one of her friends is turning into a werebear.
Yes, it's a very intense moment. There's been lots of wild magic happening and madness. Granted, the werebear might have bit him due to other people attacking him. You know, they didn't go the talking route. They went immediately into fighting action. And of course, last week you guys met our wonderful newest cast member, aka Gaz, played by Irwin. Do you want to talk a little about who you are as well as who Gaz is?
Sure, I play Gaz, who is the other half-orc warrior of the party. He is a barbarian with the bear totem, so he's extremely concerned about this horrible werebear affliction that is coming down upon his new friends. He's very chaotic and very good. He has a more happy-go-lucky demeanor than your average snarling, beastly barb. And when I'm not doing this show, I'm on a podcast called Fear the Boot at feartheboot.com, where I talk under my real name of John. Thanks for having me back, Maggie.
Yeah, no problem. Still waiting for that podcast invite.
I haven't been on an episode since our last episode. I'm a few hours west of where they record now, so it might be a while.
I'm just messing around anyway.
Okay.
And of course, our last and not least final member, not going to talk about their class or their character yet, but the wonderful Cathanis.
Hello. Yes, my name's Cathanis. I'm just a general nerd. I've been at SVK for what did it say, 2 years and 5 months? It's been a while.
A long time. That's
a long time. But yeah, I love D&D. I love theater, I love acting, so D&D is a great outlet for acting. And I just hang around, do internet stuffs. That's about it.
I mean, RP tabletop shows are the best way. I think there's a lot of great actors and actresses, and even just voice actors and actresses who can play like some amazing characters with utilizing that skill. So if you like that, well, this will be good stuff. I also just want to say a huge shout out, of course, Kathanis here as well for 29 months of support to the Space Viking Fleet. Frank with 29 as well. Mighty Rick with 2 months. Quiet Geek with 8 months. And Slow Beef, thank you so much for the host of 18 viewers. We really appreciate that. Super duper supported.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm tired. It's been a long week and a half for me, and I got like esports on my mind. I've been running like a shit ton of esports stuff, so it's just been like, yeah. And we have like game updates for every game coming out next month. It's like absurd. I'm just like, why? Why do you guys all update your game on the same month? But that's my life on the developer side.
Gotta be consistent.
Yeah. But this is my way to get away from all the work and stress. We're gonna come over here and we're just gonna play chaos. So here we go. We are in the town of Vliptville. As many of you may know, Vliptville is our persistent town that has always existed. Lots of strange things have been happening in this town, though. There have been word of missing children, and that number continues to grow. At one point, the inn's roof exploded, and just no one knows why. The whole town rushed together and really like helped rebuild the inn, and it actually looks quite a little bit nicer than it did before, just because all of the help and aid that they have been supplied. So it actually has worked out really well in their favor for once. Although there are many people who have abandoned their shops, so you'll see a lot of abandoned shops. Some of them, people are squatting in those places. There's a lot of houses and buildings that are just, no one's seen them, no one's really been paying attention to them, so they look unloved and unkempt. To the south of the town is where most of the danger lies. You never see visitors or people coming from that direction. The forest seems to have grown and started corrupting the rest of the area, creeping slowly up towards the south part of the town. And as you leave the south part of town and the road, and you continue along the road, you start seeing like weird trees that look dead, and sometimes it feels like they're talking to you. Most people who have gone down that direction have not returned, and so very rarely do any people travel that far. Now, the road to the north, on the other hand, that is how most people are coming into the town, and many of them are leaving the town. Fortunately for the town, there have been a lot of heroes who have come to town, as there are lots of job postings and people in need of help. So, we start off in the inn, as we always do. The inn that has yet to be named, I think. It is just the inn, the Vliptville Inn. And we see at the table a tiefling cleric sitting down at the table, kind of slowly picking at food, not really eating it. Next to her is Baz and Gaz, which is going to be an interesting thing. Hopefully you can all understand what I'm saying when I say those names, who are comforting her, and they're kind of having a conversation about their friend Uthal, who is currently being held in this small chapel in town. And in the small chapel, recently there were two clerics who had come to town, or priestess who had come to town. Now, they're not very high level or anything of that sort, but they are knowledgeable enough about medicine that Roxy was willing enough to leave Uthal there in their care. In the meantime, Roxy has decided that she's going to figure out how she can cure her friend. She took a night to get rest, as they had returned late at night, and it is now very early morning, probably 5 a.m. So there's not a lot of people in the inn at the moment. Most people are sleeping or mulling about, but not really doing anything of major importance. There is the innkeeper, as always, up bright and early. The banquet feast is not happening today, as this is not like a major day that they would do that for. And they have one other person who's there kind of putting a fire into a fireplace and keeps continuing leaving the room to chop more wood and come back in, as it is getting kind of a little bit chillier as it's becoming more fall in the seasons. And we'll kind of sit at the table with that group first before we meet our newest member here. And why don't you start us off, Roxy, as you talk to Gaz and Baz?
I mean, I know we left Uthal there, but I don't know if whatever magic effects happening to him that he's now he's small again. I don't understand what's happening anymore. He got bit. I just don't know how long is this gonna take. This is just a mess. This really is.
He was struck by the spirit of the darkness bear. We have to rescue him and implement the tools that will be required to fix him. Don't worry, this is possible.
I just hope we can get it done in time before he turns. I've heard some people turn fairly quickly while others take longer, but I'm not sure if the change he went under affects that in any way.
We fought by his side. You've known him longer than I. He's very strong. He'll hold out in time for us to rescue him. Don't you think?
I hope.
So the halfling bit him and he turned into a halfling?
No, the halfling landed on him and he turned into a halfling. It's a strange town, Baz. It really is.
I was inside the barn when that part happened, so I couldn't tell you. But this place is real weird.
It really is. I mean, for a while I wasn't feeling well.
For those of you who don't know, if you're just tuning in today for the first time, they're referring to a moment where one of our characters, I believe, was it Vand?
Yep.
Vand jumped out of a window at the top of a barn and landed on top of Uthal, who then turned into Vand, who is a halfling.
He had an effect on him on the first person he touched. He polymorphed into.
Yeah, it was basically a wild magic that the first person who touched him would turn into that. Which reminds me, this is a perfect opportunity. I forgot to do this because I'm very sorry today. I'm not in the great mindset. To the right of me, you can see if you do !St Jude, and I'm sure one of my lovely mods will post that in chat. You can pay $5 to inspire anyone. This gives them inspiration. Make sure you let me know who you want that inspiration to go to, or I will choose who it goes to. $10 is a natty 1 or a natty 20. Make sure to tell me who it is for and which one you are trying to supply. Otherwise, I will decide. And of course, $15 is wild magic. Please let me know who the wild magic is for as well. Otherwise, I will decide. And there's a whole slew of creepy, crazy things that can happen, like the one we just mentioned. $30 or $20 will provide a magic item. You can give suggestions, but normally I will roll them to make sure that it makes sense with what we're doing. But sometimes I like to take some suggestions. And then, of course, $30 is a threat. And a threat does not always mean that a monster has to immediately appear. It can be other things like if there's already a monster in play, I can buff them up and give them something extra like laser beam eyes. Or it can be something where someone bumps into somebody, like they accidentally end up doing something to cause a threat and they have to deal with that situation. So, yeah, potential bar fights, exactly. It was a thing that happened at one point. So, there you go. And continue on, you guys.
Yeah, I think at this point Roxy is just continuing kind of just like messing with her food. Just kind of like not really eating it anymore.
Roxy, you must know about this kind of thing. You said some people hold out longer than others. What can we do to fix him?
I mean, there's usually spells that people can learn, but I never got that far enough. I sort of left before that all happened.
That's okay. Teachers can be annoying. I leave all mine very quickly too. But we need to figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any old mentors we could go to? Or know anyone in this town? You've been here longer than me.
I haven't really talked to anyone in the town. I've mostly just stuck with people around me.
Okay.
They seem nice.
Now, Roxy, roll me, I guess an intelligence check would probably be the simplest way. to go about
I
that.
have a giant bank of nat 20s.
Oh, yeah. So, remove one of your nat 20s. As you've been kind of out of it, you woke up this morning, you didn't have very good sleep, you actually had quite a horrible dream. There was a moment where Uthal turned into a werebear and attacked you, and you didn't defend yourself, and he bit you. And then there was another time where you like woke up and you went back to sleep, and then that time he became a werewolf or a bear, or werebear, and instead this time you had to kill him, and it was like a horrible moment for you. So you've been kind of like reliving this horrible dream over and over again. And as you sit there eating your food, you just feel sick to your stomach. But because Gaz is like reminding you of all of these things and being like, there has to be something. You know this stuff. You start to remember that there are a couple priests here who you did leave Uthal with. You could have asked them some questions. You didn't ask them questions when you left him there originally, because you're just very out of it. You guys are just trying to get him help as quickly as possible and get him medical attention to wrap him up and stuff, and try to like figure out what it was and to be really sure, even though you already kind of knew that what it was from the moment it happened. Beyond that, you do know that there are, like you said, some spells that could cure it. Perhaps maybe if you talk to some people around town, you'd be able to figure out somebody who would know how to cast the spell, or a place where you could get the spell yourself.
Okay.
Boz would probably be talking to some of his churchgoers, because I haven't mentioned this to the people that haven't seen Boz before, but at the end of the first session, he started the cult.
He did.
No big deal.
What's your cult called?
It is the Redeemed. And that's kind of their whole theme, is that they believe that anyone can be redeemed through some sort of action. Boz is still kind of figuring that part out.
Even werebears.
Even werebears.
Okay. And as you guys sit there and you mull over this, the ideas of like, okay, there has to be some people that I can talk to and help. We're gonna pan away, and we'll come back to you, Baz, with trying to talk to your people and figure that out. And then, of course, if Roxy and Gaz want to do anything as well, you let me know. We're gonna pan out, and we are going to first talk to our lovely Cathanis, aka Alexei, yeah. Alexei. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm saying it right.
Fancy.
Alexei. All right. Alexei, describe what you look like to us.
So the people who are in the Roll20 can obviously see the actual characters to avoid my terrible description. But basically what he is, I don't know about those kind of fancier button-ups are called that like the Pirates wore, like kind of like 1800s, Eric style clothing, with
The
like
pirate
button.
shirt.
the pants, with the pirate
Yeah.
kind of thing. With
There's
like
a whole Seinfeld about that.
Yeah. So he kind of has one of those. It's very, it's very nice and fancy, a little bit ostentatious. It's like brown, blue, and gold. It's
Ooh, fancy.
very, yeah. And he has some kind of like curling hair, kind of wrapped up in like a bigger, like kind of mess of a ponytail. Where he's got a nice little rapier on his hip, and he's always kind of like, you see himself kind of like looking around, like kind of humming to himself always, and kind of like doing this, with his finger a whole lot, and is just like looking around, and just seems always fascinated and intrigued.
Okay. What is Alexei's background?
So Alexei comes from a wealthier family who his father, is human, his mother is elf, and his father runs a business. It's like I can't remember exactly the details. Work. I still hadn't had that panned out because I was trying to figure that out. Nothing sat right with me, but he's more of a nobleman who kind of helps to deal with affairs of just what's the right word? Anyways, I can't think of the right word right now. But his mother is very in touch with her Feywild heritage, and she loves. She's full elf. She loves music. She worships. She worships any gods of elven music. She thought it was very important for Alexei to learn music, and because it's just such a part of her culture. And the father wanted nothing to do with it. The father wanted him to, no, you're running the business. And so Alexei is currently on an adventure to get more experience in life so he can write the best ballads and perfect operas and all that. And that's his goal, is to gain experience and just find adventure so he can be inspired and prove his father wrong. So he can become one of the most famous composers there ever was.
Okay, so you have this thing with your father where he kind of disapproves of the route that you've been going, where your mother kind of encouraged it. I like that.
Yeah.
How long has it been since you've seen your parents?
It's been about trying to figure out based on D&D level and time.
Just go off of normal people times.
Okay, probably about probably been almost a year, or 10 months to a year. He's been on an adventure, just learning and getting experience, trying to because he realized I've been holed up in this mansion for all my life. I don't know any of the weird stuff. I've listened to music, my mother has flown in people, well, not flown in, but you know what I mean, brought in people from all around, just to learn music and to teach him about, culture. But he's like, I don't know culture because I haven't experienced it. So he is just all in, just trying to get as much experience as he can. And he learns that there are dangers on the way. So he's tried to, he knows some, but he's tried to always stay with groups because he's mostly interested in, learning and just capturing moments in his head and writing them down, So he's trying to keep with groups so that make up for how easily distracted he gets with writing.
Yeah, and you've probably been writing a lot in the past year. What do you think particularly would have brought you to Vlipville?
He's heard that it is just a town full of incredible people with wonderful stories, and he's like, what better is a place than adventurers who come all from around to gather and go out on these adventures? Who's better to get these experiences from? Who's better, to get these amazing ballads and tales, of epic heroes fighting wondrous creatures and going through all these, slaying dragons, curing werebears, and
there aren't stories of werebears yet, but perhaps you can be the one to present that story. So. Yeah. Okay, I like it. We're gonna say that your travel has been roughly 2 months to Vlipville. You heard word about 4 or 5 towns far from here about Vlipville. You heard little grumblings of this and that, and there was a family with a mother and a father and 5 kids who had traveled there in fear that their children would go missing. And you, overhearing this, were curious and gathered their story. And from your story, you've also gathered that they've abandoned their house. So maybe, slim pickings there for anybody who might be wanting to steal things. But you're a good man. Not something that you would necessarily be interested in, but that perhaps there are some others that would be. And in hearing that, indeed there were. There was actually a group of roguelike people who have been known to get themselves into trouble here and there. You kind of followed them, and they indeed were making their way towards Flipville. But caught themselves into a little bit of trouble as they got caught stealing something that they shouldn't have. And you, being able to spot this, were able to help turn them in. And in doing so, you were given free passageway to Flipville, and some of their resources, let's put it that way. You have a carriage and a horse.
Ooh.
You can add that to your inventory.
Yes.
And
that's perfect.
in that carriage has some rations, bedrolls, things like that. It doesn't have a cover over it. It's literally just like a little pulled carriage on a horse, so it's nothing too fancy, but it can carry a decent amount of weight in it, probably 100 to 200 pounds of weight. And so you've been kind of like sleeping in the back of it at night, and then it's not fancy as you would normally go for. I mean, you're a nobleman's son, so you probably have slept in some very nice inns. But it's culture. You're learning things. You may not always hide your cart where in a very hidden place, and so you might get yourself some things stolen here and there by a few bandits, but you've made it this far and you continue to, whether missing some things here and there. Fortunately for you, you weren't taking much with you, so there wasn't much for bandits to take other than some of your rations, which you were easily like, take it, just leave me be, and so they did. So you find yourself in the town with, or coming towards the town with very little with you other than your horse and your carriage and your personal belongings. And as you've traveled over the past 2 months, you've seen some strange things. At one point, normally you would hide your cart by trees so that people couldn't find you while you're taking your rests. But you had to kind of rush your travels a bit because there weren't any trees. Wasn't even any grass. There was no fauna in any sense. In fact, for 2 weeks, you don't think you saw any plants. And then as you started traveling further and further, plants started appearing slowly. And as they started appearing more, you just saw dead birds everywhere. One night while you were sleeping, there was this loud screaming of birds and just blood gushing everywhere. And you looked out from under your bedroll, and there were just dead birds all around you. A little horrifying, but you've heard tales. This town, weird stuff has been happening in it. You continue traveling on and on and on, and more weird things start happening. In fact, about a week ago, you saw a large bird creature. Maybe a dragon? Oh no, it couldn't be a dragon. That's just silly. It carried something almost as big as it. No, it can't be. Is that a dinosaur? I don't know. No. And you continue to travel your way on until you've reached the entrance of the town. And as you've reached the entrance of the town, to the right of you is a sign that says Flipville. It's on stone. The sign itself is very nice, but it looks like it's very unkempt. The cobblestone around it is kind of cracked. The grass around it looked like it might have at one point had beautiful plants that were arranged in a perfect way in order for the certain blooms to bloom in the certain pattern. But right now, it just looks like a complete mess.
Just real quick, as he goes by the sign, he used prestidigitation
Yeah.
to kind of clean the sign up a little bit. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
and it's like, cleans it up a little bit for him.
Yeah, you clean it off. I love it. You clean off the sign, and so the sign now doesn't have any like little embers on it or anything like that. It looks quite clean. It's still a little cracked here and there, as it would need some mending in order for it to actually be fixed. But it does look nicer. It looks like someone went over and kind of polished it a bit. But still, the plants around it look rather a mess. To the left of you is a stable. You could totally keep your horse and carriage there if you wanted. It looks like there's a griffin maybe in one of the stalls and 2 horses in the others. and it looks like there might be some extra spots that are there in the stable.
As he sees the griffin, he takes out a notebook, starts writing, and he kind of mutters to himself, "Griffin, kill crows." No. I just keeps like writing ideas down. It's like,
have you seen a griffin before?
He's seen them in pictures, but not actually. So he's like very excited.
Oh yeah, you probably like stop your carriage and like plop out your book and you're writing in it. I love the idea of that. And as you're stopped there, actually a gentleman comes out from the stable, and he's like this small halfling, and he's like, "Hey, you need some help with that horse? We have some open spots here."
Who owns that griffin?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look. We usually keep that stuff confidential. You know, people try to steal
I
other
understand.
people's.
It's the first one I've ever seen. I'm so excited that.
Oh, they are beautiful creatures. A little frightening when you're trying to feed them. Also, I think it wanted to eat me, but it's fine.
I mean, I can understand that. I would imagine he'd bite my hand off, but so magnificent. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I would like to keep my horse and my carriage here, if that is possible.
How long are you looking for?
That is a good question. That is, can I keep a tab open and pay?
I would need something, to hold in the meantime. Well, I guess if you don't return, I keep your horse and carriage.
I can put out a down payment. How much do you need?
Well, how long are you thinking?
Let's go with, just to be safe, let's go for 5 days.
Okay, and he kind of sits there and he looks like he's calculating in his head. And he says, "How about 25 silver?"
Perfect. Just takes out the pouch and just hands it to him. He also has no idea how he's going to do it. He's like, "Oh, 5 days sounds perfect." And he's like, "I don't know what I'm doing." Inside his head.
Yeah, when you quickly just say sure, he's like, "Oh, I should." He like mumbles under his breath like he should have said more. He's been keeping it really low because he's been trying to keep people staying in his stable. And so just, remove 25 silver from your equipment. Yeah. And he kind of goes to like take your horse, and you get off the horse and you kind of grab all your things. There's an inn down that way if you're looking for a place to stay for yourself. I mean, you could stay in the stall with the horse, but that'd be odd.
Oh no, I would
probably charge extra.
Oh, I appreciate your kind offer. I've spent many nights with this horse recently, and I would love to be in a nice warm room with, a fireplace, maybe some wine, some grapes, cheese. Oh, cheese sounds really good. Maybe I can have. He keeps going on for a little bit, like things like he obviously had at home in his room.
The stable keep just like listens to you, and you actually hear his stomach growl when you start talking about all this food. He looks like, as a halfling, you've seen a lot of halflings before, and normally they're kind of a little chubby. He looks really thin for a halfling. And he kind of goes and he's taking your horse and unlatching the carriage from it and kind of trying to pull the carriage off to the side.
As he's doing that, Alexei just constantly rambling himself still about like, oh, maybe I'd have this and that while walking to the inn. And it's like, oh, maybe he's still talking to himself, all excited.
Yeah, you start talking and you start walking the other way. Now, it takes you probably 15-20 minutes to get from there to the inn, and you finally make your way to the inn. As you're not really like in a rush, you're leisurely walking around and looking around, and you're seeing the town for the first time, and it looks really sad. Like there's not a lot of people. Some of the buildings are missing windows. It looks like you've heard about the roof in the inn exploding, and it looks like all the shrapnel from that explosion like wrecked a bunch of the windows in other houses nearby and buildings nearby and shops. And it looks like no one has really cleaned up those spots necessarily. There's been a couple places here and there where things are patched up and it looks like somebody's living there or cleaned it up, and none of the shops look open. And you make your way and you continue going on, and it's probably, 5 a.m. for you, and you're just getting there early morning.
Okay.
You look up and the sign for the inn kind of sways back and forth. The door in front of you is like this beautiful wooden door, and you push it open. And inside, you look to the left of you is a message board. It looks like there's a bunch of things on the board that you could do for jobs and stuff like that. To the right is this long, gorgeous bar with little bar stools that all match. And all about the table, or all about the inn, has a bunch of tables, like 5 or 6 tables that are of this nice, beautiful wooden make with all matching chairs. And far in the back, it looks like possibly that might be where the rooms are kept.
Okay, I will go up to the who Alexei presumed to be the barkeep, which would pretty much be like one of the first people he sees in the bar.
Yeah.
Be like,
To the right of you, you see a barkeep. Outside, there was somebody who looked like they might work for the place, carrying a bunch of wood. And then you see a group of 3 people only in the inn. One of them, like this little tiefling who's like picking away at her food, and 2 other gentlemen kind of like sitting next to her, kind of coaxing her.
One of the half-orcs next to her has this big bottle of mead in his hand and just is face palming, trying to think all those lectures from the elders that he ignored. Was there anything in them about werebears or something that could have been werebear?
Roll me a nature.
Shaman,
a nature or a history or religion. I'll accept any of those.
I have a couple of those 20s left from 2 weeks ago, so
which one would you like to use?
I'll use nature.
Okay. So remove your nat 20. Nature wise.
Carry your sheet here.
With a nat 20, yes, you've heard of werebears. There are a lot of were creatures. Werebears are actually kind of like the nicer of the were creatures. They tend to not be as unless you are attacking them, they really just only try to defend themselves. And normally when someone gets turned into a werebear, it's not because of evil means. It's normal, it kind of is, but it's for a purpose, a champion. They need the person. So it's a little bit different for werebears. That's kind of what you gather from that. And then, of course, you do know that in order to cure someone from turning into a were creature would be, I think it's greater restoration, I believe, or something of that sort, to be able to cure them. Now, there might be some other elixirs out there, potions and such, that can also do the job. But you haven't ever seen those potions yourself, and Arcana is not necessarily something that you're interested in. Even
on a 20, hitting the 2 neurons that are in the back of my head that know this stuff, I'm not going to know the recipe for the elixir. It's just not there.
But you've heard of it before.
Okay, cool.
Just imagine like Pooh does that. Think. Like,
that's pretty much what he's doing. He's like smacking himself with those giant turkey sticks.
Barbarian who's drinking at 9 in the morning and doing the think thing. And there's only partial success going on there.
Yeah, remove curse would work. Someone else mentioned that could work, yeah.
I know there's an elixir that can keep this from taking hold, everyone, but they didn't teach me any elixir brewing, so I don't know how to make it. I'm sorry.
Do you at least remember the name of it?
You'll go ahead.
I was just asking, does he at least remember the name of it?
Did they give it a name?
You don't know the name of it. With a nature check of 20, I think that you know more about the creature. So you know the habits of the creature, and that's why I give you a lot about the creature and how the creatures work. But the elixir itself, not so much. That's kind of just like something that you would have, you just remember something about an elixir, but you don't remember exactly.
I remember being taught that the werebear is not necessarily an aspect of the Bear of Darkness. They're not strictly bad, but they're unnatural, and we should help him if we can.
Alexei is up at the bar asking the bartender for if he can get a room.
Yeah.
For a few nights, like 5 nights, once again, yeah.
How many nights? 5 nights? How about 2 gold?
Sounds perfect. He just drops 2 gold, and then as he's saying it, he's like, "What are they talking about over there?" Like very excited, like trying to be like.
To the barkeep, you're asking?
Yeah.
I try to not listen in on people's conversations. It's rather rude.
He's just sitting there like waiting for me, like, and
I wasn't listening in on their conversation, is what I'm telling you.
oh, well, this is awkward. I guess
I'm
I'll
sure
have
if you
to.
would like to talk to them. I mean,
Well, you see,
the heroes of the town. He points like up at a mural on the side of the wall, and there's this ginormous mural on the wall of like fire elementals flinging fire, and like you see Roxy the tiefling standing there like casting some magical like bolt of lightning into one of them, and I think Baz, you're in that, right? Because you were there too. Baz actually has like long hair wrapped around his neck, and he's got like he's wielding his sword. You have a sword, right? Like a great sword or something?
Yeah, he had an executioner's sword.
Yeah, he has a great sword in his hand. And that's kind of what you see over there. You don't see Gaz on that painting, the third fellow there.
would I
But
know?
basically, that you get from the innkeeper, it seems like he's trying not to listen in on their conversation because he feels like it'd be rude, as they're kind of heroes to
Yeah.
the town.
Would just because he's read so many tales of just.
Or at least that's what he's saying to you. You could insight check him to see if he's telling the truth.
You know, just for the heck of it, nah, he wouldn't do that. He believes him. He fully believes him.
You believe that the barkeep wasn't listening in? Okay.
Yeah. Oh no. There we go. Okay. I minimized Zoom. It's like, oh no. So, would based on the painting and some stories you've heard, would Alexei know their names because he's very intrigued by heroes?
This painting is, you've never seen this painting before. It is not, it is a original painting. But you may recognize the art. So, what would that be? Like history? Yeah.
I'm gonna do a history
Like-
check.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else that would make sense for that, right? History, because there's no other knowledge thing, really. Investigate, maybe. History with a 13. That's a pretty good roll. You kind of turn and you start looking over at this painting, and the barkeep kind of wanders off and he starts working on something off to the side. Looks like he's preparing something for the morning, as it's starting to become like 5:30 a.m. People are gonna start waking up for breakfast. And you sit there and you're like looking over at that painting, and you recognize some of the brush strokes, and you might have seen some paintings from this certain artist. And then you look over to the left corner and you see a signature and it says Ross. And then it dawns on you, this is Bob Ross. He's the he's a well-known painter. He's in this town? You didn't know that. But you did know that he does paint a lot of wonderful paintings that have made it all around the world.
You just see Alexei kind of staring at like just like stroking his like chins, like looking around, and he's looking back at the party, back at the painting, back at the party, back at the painting. He's like,
and as you do that, you're looking at them, and what really gives it off is those trees, those happy little trees. It just, something about them just perfectly depict, this could not be a forgery. This is truly a Bob Ross painting.
This trip was worth it just for this. He's just sitting there like staring at it so happily, being also very like, he's like, oh my, that is them. This is like very loud, like not hiding anything. He's like, this is so fantastic. Oh, I must talk to them. I must hear their story of this. Like just being like so obnoxious loud.
And I just want to give a big thank you to Mark Dean for donating for the Bob Ross NPC. All the NPCs that you will meet in this world are all created and kind of provided. Their names are also provided, and in the town, everything is provided by our lovely donators for St. Jude. So if you'd like to donate to us, to the right you can, exclamation St. Jude to donate, and there are a whole bunch of slew of amazing things that you can do. Make sure to let me know who you're donating it for if you are choosing one of those things, though.
That is
Go ahead,
amazing.
Austin.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
And
someone donated for that, so I just want to.
So worth.
so as he's doing this, he looks over, notices that it is them, and he just kind of walks up, sits down next to them, takes out his book and his quill, and he's like, "Tell me the story of this painting. I must know."
I love that this is how you enter the scene with them. It's so
Super
great.
excited, like, what was it like? What was the temperature? Was there any like romantic interest in this? Oh man, I need to know all of this.
Gaz looks over at Roxy and Baz and says, "Well, now that guy mentioned it, that is an awful nice painting."
It's a Bob Ross. Of course, it's nice.
Who's Bob Ross?
Gaz does remember seeing this painting when he first walked in, and you do remember seeing some of the people that you've been hanging out with on that painting. You didn't really think about it too much, though.
Yeah, Gaz is not
He's not a
cultivated.
thinker.
But now that he's looking at it, it's like, oh, that sure is pretty.
He has the most immaculate trees. You can just see how they just look happy. Like they're just so, even in this with elementals shooting fire, the trees somehow manage to look happy and have life. I just love it so much.
Yeah, I think the one thing that would be kind of different about it is Boz doesn't quite look the same in that one as he does in real life.
Yeah, when you look at Baz now, you look back up at the painting, and at first he looked kind of like this epic hero, but he looked like he was kind of getting choked by a giant thing of hair. But still looked epic. Now you look back over at him, and you're like, he kind of looks just like a weeb, like a little dweeb, just a little dweeb. Like he doesn't look as like someone must have exaggerated in that painting to make him look cooler than he really is.
Well, you see, due to Alexei's loving of art, he'll just be like, did you like lessen some of this painting? Something happened to you? We became less appealing?
Wow.
Dang!
Blunt.
No, Boz gets it.
Throw those happy little insults.
This town does things to people.
I've heard that. I'm so very excited to be here.
You also see that his teeth look like mirrors.
Yeah, when he smiles, you can see yourself in his teeth. They look like bits, little tiny mirrors are lined along his teeth.
He's just like, you must take very good health care of your teeth. They look so healthy. I must know your routine.
You'll find out if you stay here long enough.
Oh, I intend to. He's still like smiling, still having his quill in his hand and a notebook, waiting to hear about the story.
You sound like a psychopath, and I love it.
Boz just like pats him on the shoulder like, oh, you poor fool.
I'm not poor.
I think this is the longest we've gone without a wild magic, actually.
But so would you all please enthrall me of the story? What happened? I want to know every detail.
Maybe later, friend.
Yeah, you kind of look over at roll me an insight check, Alexei.
I wanted this to be his lesser stat, but I didn't choose it. But I wanted him to be -8 to wisdom. Minus 8 to wisdom.
Oh.
You're talking, and you're so always used to just talking and asking questions, and normally people just give you answers and are so excited to talk about themselves. But you look over, and this group, I guess, probably the exception of it, look kind of distraught, especially the tiefling. She's sad and mournful. She looks like she's not really interested in talking, and maybe there might be something more to it than just a stranger talking to them at a table at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. this Yolo doing something. I'm so sorry. Puts the quill up. He's like, is it the quite literal murder of crows out there? I mean, it was very appalling when I walked in here. There's all these dead crows all around here. It's just, I can see how you could be sad here.
It's something's going on in this town. Just, I really don't know how to explain it.
I think I
I
saw
only came a few days ago, and there were a bunch of headless birds on the floor when I was here. So, welcome to town.
Alexei, now that you think about it and you remember, yeah, they were all missing their heads.
I just noticed that they were all dead. I didn't know they were interesting. This could make for a good tragedy. Headless bird. Maybe it could be a griffin. Ooh. He's just back to talking to himself. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. So what do you mean this town has weird things happening in it besides the decapitated poultry?"
If, as you can tell, she kind of points to Baz. He has had some strange stuff, as have I. I've also had strange phenomena happen. I haven't figured out if it's because of Helm or if it's just something going on with this town, but there's something. But as of... Go ahead.
Okay, I was just saying, would you mind explaining these phenomena?
I would. Her face kind of gets a little red, and she's like, "I'd rather not."
Oh, that's fine then. Maybe later.
No.
So, are there any heroics going on right now? Anything exciting happening? Any plans to go out anywhere?
We're trying to figure out how to stop someone from turning into a werebear if they've been bit by one. You wouldn't happen to know, would you?
Okay, so is that a character? Because he's read a whole lot about the Feywild, he's read a whole lot about stuff like that in general. Would he have any insight on that?
Roll me a nature. Or I would accept a history as well.
Okay, because I have...
Or even maybe Arcana to some extent.
I have Arcana and history both.
19 is very good. With a 19, you've heard a lot about werebears. Everything that I basically told to Gaz, you've heard that. If you need me to reiterate anything, let me know.
Yeah, because I was listening to it, but I also kind of wanted to be more like in the moment when I got there. I like to kind of tune out someone talk about other characters when I'm not there.
Gotcha. So you pretty much know that werebears are very similar to other were creatures in the sense that you can cure them through greater restoration. There are some potions out there that will cure them as well. Potions of greater restoration, mostly. There might be some specific ones to werebears, as people who really, really get into potion making sometimes make very specific potions. There are even potions out there that will turn you into a werebear that you know of. Also, werebears in general, they tend to not turn another person into a werebear unless they have a reason, whether they're frightened or they find somebody who they think can be their champion, or they normally don't do it. They normally aren't hostile unless you are attacking them, type of thing. Not that they're not bad creatures, they tend to not be as bad as some of the others. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I have heard some. I know that there are many remedies. Some people who love alchemy and make certain potions to turn even into werebears, as well as stop a werebear curse. Some people like adventure and some of that kind of things. I mean, I'm not one to judge, but I know that generally, from my readings, werebears, if they are aggressive and attack and turn someone into, is either due to them feeling threatened, or they have found someone who they think is quite strong and could be their champion of sorts. But no, it is quite possible to cure either with some more advanced magic, or if you find someone who is quite into alchemy and has made a plethora of potions.
Are you an alchemist or a magician, my new friend?
In a way.
Can you make the elixir?
No.
Hmm. Well, that was
But-
kind of
Just
the
kind
way
of
I
face
was hoping.
palms.
I do many other things though that are. He's kind of winks, quite amazing.
Okay. Well, it's nice to meet you. I'm Gaz.
Boz scoots away a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so rude. My name's Alexei. Very nice to meet all of you.
Pleasure.
Boz.
Well,
Right.
if it helps, I could play some music to make you all feel better. I'm a composer, and I know many songs.
Oh yes, please do. Play me your favorite.
Okay, so I don't have any songs I set aside, but
You roll me a performance check, and
Okay.
we'll see how well you perform, and then you can tell us what you perform. Now you don't have to have something prepared, and you don't have to sing.
Oh
for us or
my
anything
God.
Like that. But if you wish to, I will not discourage it. With a 23, you put on probably the most beautiful performance that many of them have seen. I think Roxy, probably out of all of them, may have seen something better than that, but very slightly in her years of being alive. But I think most everyone here will be astounded in whatever this performance is that you're putting on. In fact, even the barkeep will as well. So what is it that you do during this performance?
so Alexei, he's like, all right, I'll step back a few. He stands up, he steps back, kind of like coughs, kind of like like adjusts his sleeves, and then he takes out his rapier. He kind of puts it up like this. You see some kind of like tealish color go around the blade, and he starts playing the violin in midair, like just like doing this, like no strings. He starts playing the violin, and he's just sitting there with his eyes closed, and he's playing one of his more favorite numbers from when he was a child that he heard. That was just a I'm trying to think of the right word. I'm losing all my music terminology, but it's just
Yeah.
it's just like a solo
You
piece.
hear
Of
this cacophony of stringed instrument playing throughout the inn, and it bounces off the wood walls and resonates around you, and it sounds so beautiful and lovely and epic, and it gives you that moment in your heart where like your heart kind of clenches and almost drops, you know? It gives you the feels. And actually, even the barkeep is entranced by this beautiful music. And he comes over quickly, having just made one of the meals for the breakfast round, and kind of slides it over on the table and tosses you back your two gold coin and says, "If you play me a tune like that every night, I'll give you free inn and free food."
That's so. Thank you. Oh, that is the greatest compliment I could get. Oh, thank you so much.
And actually, someone comes through the front door as they're hearing this music, and comes and sits down. And a couple of the people that were in their rooms come out from their rooms and start sitting around the tables as breakfast is being served, and they're listening to this music. But at the end of it, that's what the innkeeper says to you.
Gaz starts bawling halfway through, crying into his mead with joy.
Oh.
That was a favorite piece of mine. It was about two lovers. They were both lost in the Feywild, and they were just lost. They were wandering the woods, and they didn't know if they could find their way. And then a magnificent unicorn comes and guides them over to safety. And oh, it's such a beautiful tale.
I didn't even listen to the words. Oh!
Yeah, you were so distracted by how just lovely it sounded. The words just didn't even comprehend in your mind. Not that they would have otherwise.
That's right.
And he sheaths his rapier, does a little twirly bow, and he
Yeah,
says,
everyone that's in the inn starts clapping, and you just hear a round of applause from all about the inn. And there's not that many people in there, but there were a lot more before, or there were less before, as it was just the four of you and the innkeeper at once.
he kind of says, "Remember the name Alexei Vithrael. You will hear of me for many years." And he's kind of like does a finger gun wink, and just
Yeah, you actually see one person who has like a black cloak and like an interesting emblem on her cloak. She actually pulls out like a notebook and writes possibly your name down.
And then he
Hope
just
that's another bard.
Yeah, it's the other bard. Damn
He's-
it.
sits back down and is like, well, I hope that helped lighten your all's mood.
A bit. I do appreciate it.
No problem. That's I'm here to explore, adventure, love, hurt, learn, me for everything. I'm here. I just want to experience the world.
This is a place of many experiences.
Indeed.
So,
Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm
I was
not going
gonna
to stop any RP if RP is going to happen. Go ahead.
so is with your friend, are they not here? Are they away or?
I took him to a chapel where some priestess are watching him right now.
Okay. Well, since my whole goal here is to go on adventures, if you need someone else to help, I'm more than willing to come help.
I think that would be great.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope you can help like you can sing.
I can sing. I'm more of a he kind of like also he's like kind of just flare up a little more. He kind of cracks his knuckles and just like this isn't like he's just kind of showing off all things he can do. He starts playing the piano midair with his fingers, and he's like, I can do small things like this too. I can.
Haha, you are a wizard. What spell are you casting?
I told you I have my own type of magic, and winks again.
Oh, well, okay.
I am blessed by a wonderful. I'm trying to think of the right word. 'Cause it's like he's due to him having some warlock levels in him. He kind of like trying to figure out. Would he know who? Anyways, but he's like,
Gus collects himself for a second and says, all right, maybe we should take you to those two priestesses. See if you all can't come together and agree on what we need to help.
Priestesses.
Okay, so are you all going to go to the priestesses? Priestess. I think that's
Priest
what
eye.
it is.
Clerics.
Baz, you said you wanted to talk to your following. Would you like to do that separate, or do you want to do that together as well?
I think Boz would stick with the group for now.
Okay. So you all make your way over to the chapel. It's not very far. The chapel itself is this very small building. From the outside, it's this pale white building with, at the top of it, has like a little caged area where a bell is. The bell looks a little broken, maybe not like, it hasn't been cleaned in a while. And it sits kind of at the top with this, kind of like a little cute building at the top of the building. A mini building. Holding just for the bell. And as you guys walk in, the chapel itself has 3 sets of pews on the left and on the right, and 1 aisle that goes down the middle. And at the end of the church, there is a little ornate setup that looks like, where people do their prayers and things of that sort. At the front end of it is a large stained glass window that is quite gorgeous. And it actually looks like someone has been keeping that. It looks fairly clean, and like the light is shining through it because it's morning and the sun is just coming up. And the little bits of color are sparkling onto the pews as you walk into the room. To the right, you see Uthal kind of laying out on one of the pews, and one of the priestesses is kind of standing over him, kind of watching him. The other one is not in sight.
I think Roxy's gonna go over and just kind of sit by Uthal.
Yeah, you sit at the edge of the pew where he's kind of laying, where his head is, and you look down at him. And the other priest just kind of like moves back, kind of giving you space. And she says, It doesn't seem like much is changing, although it seems as though it might be spreading. And you look down at him and you can see where the bite mark was, that the veins around it are becoming... He's made of like rock looking stuff, so it's kind of interesting, and his veins are like outside. It's a weird combination. Actually, no, that got cured, right?
No, he's in the shape of land right now.
Yeah, so you actually see this little halfling who can fit on the pew perfectly fine. And you see his little tiny arm just like almost as though it's like blackened.